right. Thanks, Patsy. Can you all see my single slide, Recovering the Lost Words, Reconnecting Children with Nature?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Thank you all for having me. I'm sorry I couldn't make it down there. I was hoping that I could make it down there to talk to you in person and then combine that with a nice trip out to Mitchell Audubon. But I was actually doing a golden cheek warbler survey at Travis Audubon's Baker Sanctuary this morning. So I had five golden cheeks and 2 banded ones. So that was time well spent this morning. So I'm going to talk to you about this project and a little bit about some inspiration here, but okay. This is a rhetorical question right now, but what do the following birds have in common? Heron, kingfisher, lark, magpie, pelican, raven, starling, stork, thrush, wren. All right, you're about to find out what all of those words have in common. But before I share my screen again, I want to talk to you a little bit about the inspiration for this project. There were really 3 things that inspired this for me. And the first one I'm going to read to you, it's actually from a book called The Hour of Land by the author Terry Tempest Williams. And she did a reading of this at Book People here in Austin in, I think, 2018. And she read this passage from her book, and I'm not going to read the whole passage, but part of it. These words have been removed from the recent print version of the Oxford Junior Dictionary for Children. Eggcorn, beaver, bloom, bluebell, brook, clover, colt, dandelion, doe, fern, heron, kingfisher, lark, magpie, otter, pansy, pelican, raven, starling, stork, thrush, tulip, violet, willow, wren. These are some words that have been added. Allergic, analog, blog, broadband, bullet point, bungee jumping, celebrity, chat room, database, drought, dyslexic, endangered, MP3 player, vandalism, voicemail. I was affected by that when she read that. And I'm hoping that some of you listening felt the way that I felt when a sense of sadness and loss when I read that. And that just was my initial spark for this project. The second spark happened about 6 weeks after that. I was out in Santa Fe and touring the Santa Fe Botanical Garden. And a local artist there named Michael Naminga had done an exhibit in the botanical garden there called AWOL, absent without leave, where he had planted in the garden 10 of these words that had also been removed from the dictionary. Mm-hmm. And I think seeing that exhibit so soon after hearing Terry Tempest Williams read this sort of reinforced this sense of loss for me. The third spark was a photography instructor. So I had taken a photo workshop from someone named Eddie Soloway, also through Santa Fe workshops. And he has programs for his alumni that complete his. And one of them is to do a book project. So it was early in 2020, actually before COVID started. And he encouraged his alumni to work on a photo book project. And I thought, this is really what I wanted to spend some time on, documenting these lost words. So that's how I began that in early 2020, as I mentioned, before COVID started, but finished it during that. So it was my COVID project that year. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through this most of this book. It's not too long, but let me share my screen again in that one. Okay. Can you all see that? Picturing the lost words?
Yes.
Thank you. So this intro is just really talking a little bit about some of those sparks and inspiration and how it affected me. And this is the quote that Patsy read to start with from Robert MacFarlane, who also documented these words in a beautiful book, which I'll refer to later. So I began photographing some of these, and what I wanted to do as well, because these words had been removed from the dictionary, is I wanted to include the definitions, but strike through them to indicate that they were no longer there. And I couldn't find a print version of this, but thanks to eBay, I was able to get a earlier edition of the Oxford Junior Dictionary for Children and found many of these words in there, which I included with the strike through there. I also, through my photographs, but I wanted to say more than just what I was able to photograph. And I had never written poetry before. All of my writing was, for technical writing and for work. But for some reason, I just felt like I wanted to say more. So I began doing some poetry for some of these. And of course, elementary school, I still remember haiku, 575. Mm-hmm. So a number of these were simple haikus, but spoke to, I think, how I felt about sort of the loss of these words. And then because I'm not much of a poet, I also then included some applicable quotations on these from other authors. I'm not going to read all of these poetry, but I want to focus a little bit on some of the birds. I do want to talk just briefly about dandelions because I had never thought about dandelions in the context of this quote from Vladimir Nabokov about suns and moons. Most of the dandelions had changed from suns into moons. And I don't know how many photographs I took of dandelions. I mean, hundreds from different angles through different perspectives in different light. And it actually helped me, help my photography. I began to look at things a little bit more closely just by focusing on these dandelions. Heather is not something that we have much of in Texas, but it was one of the words that was removed from the dictionary. And I found at our nursery native plant called Mexican heather. I bought some of that, planted it in the backyard, and took some photos of that. Heron was one of the words removed. Excised is the heron, a singular incision, but alarmingly deep. Gone are the great blue and the green. Vanished in the night are the black crown and the yellow crown. Taken leave is a tricolored. All lost with a single semantic slice. Even the strongest wings cannot restore them. Kingfisher. At this same time, I'd also come across a book by Rachel Carson. Everyone knows Rachel Carson from Silent Spring. This is a short book that she wrote called The Sense of Wonder. She wrote it for her grandnephew, who was about 5 or 6 at the time, a similar age, just a little bit younger than the age that Oxford Junior Dictionary is targeted to. That's generally targeted to children from about 7 to 9. But Rachel Carson talked about the sense of wonder, and this particular quote I have on my website, and I have in my artist statement as a photographer. If I had influence with the good fairy who's supposed to preside over the christening of all children, I should ask that her gift to each child in the world be a sense of wonder so indestructible that it would last throughout life as an unfailing antidote against the boredom and disenchantments of later years, the sterile preoccupation with things that are artificial, the alienation from the sources of our strength. Lavender was one of the words that was missing. Mistletoe as well. And mistletoe, I think if you ever try to photograph mistletoe, it's not very photogenic. Pansy was removed. All the smiles are gone from fleeting floral faces lost to the modern. Pelican was also removed. This was poppy. And this is the quote I like from Lady Bird Johnson. My heart found its home long ago in the beauty, mystery, order, and disorder of the flowering earth.
Lady Bird.
Sycamore. So I just had to put this quote in there from Joni Mitchell because it feels like it just made, was just too appropriate. And I was trying to think how do I depict a sycamore. Well, they're not very photogenic either, but I think most of the people who know sycamore trees, one of the first images that they have is of their bark. So I did this little collage of various patterns of sycamore bark. Thrush. This is a wood thrush that I photographed at the South Padre Island Birding Center. I also, through this, discovered the poetry of Mary Oliver. And for those that are not familiar with her, I would recommend her highly. I don't know if there's a particular one that is my sort of gateway drug to Mary Oliver, but if you haven't read any of her work, I would encourage you to explore her as well.
Very good.
Wren. The nameless bird sings, its song once beautiful, now mournful and aching, singing for the lost words, a loss our children may never know, singing amazing grace, how truly sweet was the sound of the now nameless bird. These are just 20 or 25 of the words. There are many more. Some that don't seem to make sense, but they are in that book. And I should just mention that these words are now in the online version of the dictionary. They were removed from the print version. And as I was working on this project, now let me hold on that, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that in just a moment. But I wanted to mention this an iNaturalist project that I created as part of this effort. So I discovered iNaturalist when I went through the Master Naturalist training and been a big iNat fan. And I decided to create a iNaturalist project of the lost words in Austin. So I defined a project there and identified all of these species that had been removed. And over this time, this project, there were over 1,000 observations in the city of Austin of these different words that had been removed. And people didn't even know that they weren't going out saying, I'm going to search for a heron. They were just using iNaturalist. But I was capturing their efforts in this project.
Cool.
So let me finish this and switch gears here a little bit. And there we go. Okay. So after I'd worked on this project, I was on a committee, the conservation committee for the North American Nature Photography Association. And I had mentioned this to other people on the conservation committee. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to let more people know about this. And I wanted to really sort of spread the word. I also wanted to sort of up the quality of the photography. I look back on this now, sort of 3 or 4 years ago. It's good, but I'm a better photographer than I was then, and I wanted to get even better images. So I began working with other photographers in Nampa to capture and document these words. And again, I used iNaturalist for a way for people all over the country to submit their images. And all they did was they took photographs of these words that had been removed and added them to this iNaturalist project, which I gathered here. Let me see if I can really quickly probably show that. Nampa Lost Words ebook project. So this was my mechanism for having other photographers around the country contribute to this. And there wasn't a lot they had to do. They just had to go out and do their normal photography and normal work. And if they stored it in iNaturalist, it got added to this project. So heron, little blue heron. This was one for me. This was a type of fungus that I just found at a park here in Austin. So anyway, you can see here several thousand observations of 473 different species. There's not that many words, but we've got lots of species of herons and thrush, etc. So I began to gather this and talked with several other people on the conservation committee. And one of the folks on the committee said, basically, well, interesting, but so what? I mean, kids don't use dictionaries now anyway, and they find things online, and it's not like the Oxford Junior Dictionary is going to put these words back in. What's sort of the point? And I said, well, it's not so much that these words are gone, it's what the fact that they removed them represents. And let me just sort of bring a quote from this article. They said that the dictionary said they were no longer part of the life experience of young readers. So the fact that words like dandelion and doe, pelican and poppy were not part of the life experience of young readers concerned us. And these were, we said, the removal of these words, while disheartening, points to an underlying malady, nature deficit disorder, coined by Richard Louv in his Last Child in the Woods. or what Rachel Carson foreshadowed in her sense of wonder, the sterile preoccupation with things that are artificial, the alienation from the sources of our strength. So what we began to do, my book of poetry and picture was one of, I think, sadness and loss for me. And a lot of the poetry reflected that. And in speaking with other people on the Nampa Conservation Committee and some other folks who helped me with this project, we wanted to begin to focus not so much on the loss, but on the positives that things people were doing to help reconnect people with nature. So we wrote this article, which is just on my website right now. And this shares a variety of photos from photographs around the country, including Jennifer Lee Warner, who's a Nampa photographer in San Antonio. Some of you may have met her out at Mitchell Audubon. But we wanted to begin to focus on what people were doing positively. So to that end, we were inspired a lot by this quote, which actually wound up in the Travis Audubon, I think, annual report. In the end, we will only conserve what we love, we will only love what we understand, and we will only understand what we are taught. Let's teach our children not only the beauty and wonder of nature, but its importance as well, not just through the internet and YouTube, but experience it firsthand. So that was the jumping off point for sort of the next step of this project, if you will. This website, which we've begun, called Recovering the Lost Words. This is not published yet. I will share the link with you at the end and the password if you want to get into it. It's important to know that it's not ready for prime time yet. So if you do go into it, you may see under construction and things like that. But I wanted to share this because it's sort of the next phase of this project for us, where we talk about the words that were removed. I've already gone over those with you. A photo gallery of those words. I'm a photographer. I'm working with photographers. We wanted to capture those in pictures. But more importantly, a variety of things that people can do, stories, organizations, initiatives to help people reconnect with the natural world. So organizations and initiatives. Patsy already mentioned the Flying Wild workshop that where I met her. That's part of Project Wild and Growing Up Wild and similar things. There's tons of activities. Travis Audubon has a young birders group. National Audubon has Audubon for Kids. Texas Children in Nature, Texas Families in Nature. So we're trying to provide links to these resources that can help people connect. I'm also a book person. The fact that these were words that were missing made me want to include books for parents. Last Child in the Woods, Sharing Nature with Children, How to Raise a Wild Child, The Sense of Wonder, and children's books, specifically ones that may feature one of the words that was lost.
It's great.
We're working on, so when someone looks at this and says, man, that just pisses me off, I want to do something. Well, what can we do? Well, go birding, grow a garden, introduce teens to iNaturalist, bio blitzes, tons of stuff. And this is one of the things that we're going to continue to work on. The last component is I want to tell some stories of some specific projects related to this. So I'm going to start with my own about my COVID book project. But I want to talk about the Junior Master Naturalist program. I believe the Alamo chapter has an active effort there, and I know our Goodwater chapter up here in Williamson County does.
Yes.
I'm going to talk about the Travis Audubon Young Birders program. I'm going to try to interview someone who works for LCRA who's introducing his 9 and 10-year-old kids to nature and birding through his photography. So I want to relay some of these stories in a more positive way to help people understand what folks are doing. And lastly, I wanted to share this outdoor Bill of Rights. Some of you may have seen this, or this is something that I know that Austin has published in a variety of parks and preserves. I don't think they came up with it, but it spoke to me, and I wanted to share it with all of you here. Children's Outdoor Bill of Rights, in which children of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities have the right to climb a tree, catch a fish, hike a trail, ride a bike, splash in a creek or river, play in the sand and mud, gaze at the night sky, chase a firefly, plant a seed and watch it grow, harvest and eat a fruit or vegetable. So this is sort of the shift I've gone through with this project from mourning the loss to trying to help people reconnect. And let me just do one more quick share with a couple of links for you all, and then I will be ready for questions. Thank you there. And come on, right there, where you need to go. So a couple of different links. My contact information, I'm davidjcook@gmail.com. My photography and some information about this is at davidjcookphotography.com. That's the article that I showed you, David J. Cook Photography / Recovering the Lost Words. There's a wonderful book that I discovered. It's terribly eloquent. Robert MacFarlane, who's a great British writer, writes about the natural world. He and an illustrator named Jackie Morris did a book called The Lost Words, where he writes spells to conjure these words back up. And Jackie Morris has a beautiful illustration. So I encourage you to explore that. And I also mentioned The Hour of Land by Terry Tempest Williams, which was one of my sparks and inspiration for that. With that, let me stop sharing and answer any questions that people may have.
Thank you, David. Before we do that, too, I wanted to say, sorry, I forget I have to be in front of a camera. Very good. I wanted to say that we have recorded this presentation and we will put it on our Vimeo channel for Bear Audubon. And also we'll have the links that are in the program there, so that if you didn't get them written down or you want to have longer time to think about these things or go through, but all of the websites that you can go through at your own pace, take your own time, and you can read every little line, every little jot and tittle, you might say, and it's all very inspiring. So I wanted to say that and thank David for inspiring me to do some things too. So anybody have a question or a comment you would like to share? Yes, sir.
Did you have any contact with the Oxford Dictionary people about these things being disappeared?
I did not. I found a number of references, and all of this happened about 2015 or so. I had learned about this, I think, in 2018 or 2019. There was quite a distance about it. They responded. I didn't particularly feel the need or the desire to have a conversation with them about it, frankly. And There's something that I learned from some comments, because one of the things that I talked about was, you know, I understand why you might want to add new words, but why do you have to take out eggcorn? And I actually sort of learned that only recently, that they keep the printed version of this in a specific size that they feel can work in children's hands. So if you add some things, something probably needs to go. At least that explains to me why there was this trade-off. I don't like the trade-off. I wouldn't have taken those words, but I had read that explanation as to sort of why they began to take that step. I did not reach out to anyone there specifically. I did reach out to the people who were behind that website, thelostwords.org, and let them know about my efforts here. Never really heard back from them, didn't follow up further, but I did reach out to them a couple of years ago.
Anybody else have a question?
Have you tried to find out whether or not the teaching of nature is a part of our curriculum now for elementary schools? The dandelion word pops in my mind. I can't tell you when I learned the definition of dandelion, but I can tell you when I was 9 years old, my third grade teacher took us out in the fields. We harvested dandelions, brought them back into the classroom, washed them, made a salad. It was bitter. At the same time, it was enjoyable. I remember that. But if that's not being done now, our modern children aren't.
Yeah, and I have haven't done a lot of research in sort of school curriculum. I've been focusing a lot more. So tomorrow I'm going to be leading a field trip of fourth graders at West Cape Preserve near Dripping Springs. So I'm trying to connect in that way. I think that it's even through the curriculum efforts and whatever those happen to be, because I am not familiar with the TEKS or the text or whatever the latest thing is, but it goes beyond what the kids do in school. And I gave a similar talk a couple weeks ago in Georgetown, and someone raised their hand. He was an older gentleman. He said, I remember growing up that we used to play out in the ditch out front. And we discovered so much there. And now, if kids try to do that, we wouldn't let them. So there's a number of people we're talking about things that we did as younger growing up that kids aren't doing now. And there may be good reasons for that. I don't want to get into sort of lengthy conversation about that, but I feel like we connected in ways that kids today who are growing up today are further from. So helping people play outdoors, helping kids, and I'll tell a brief story about this sense of wonder and how I saw it in an 8-year-old here at in Austin, St. Edwards Park, which is a hot spot on eBird. A couple of years ago, there was an American woodcock there, which is not a real common bird for here, and certainly not for that park. But several people had been writing about it, and I was there at the park, and we were walking down the trail, and I saw the woodcock. I was watching it for a little bit, and a family came up, and a little 8-year-old boy was running down the trail. He's going, "Is that the woodcock? Is that the woodcock?" And he was so excited, and he was so connected to this. Whatever that did for him, and to some degree, iNaturalist and eBird can help people connect. They gamify things, which kids love. And that's one of the reasons that I'm a huge fan of iNaturalist, because it's a way to help people connect and identify and have fun with it and connect with others.
That's a good reason to go to the workshop if you don't know how to do it. So we have that coming up April 5th. Yes, ma'am, Miss Becca.
David, I put the link to your project, iNaturalist project, in the chat, and I joined it while you were talking, and it already put 186 of my observations automatically into the project.
Excellent.
So good. She was doing good back there. She was poking.
No, because it automatically put the things that are deleted, and I have that many, which is scary, and 54 species.
Excellent.
That's scary.
So if we use the iNaturalist as well, if we take pictures and they're one of those lost words represented, does it automatically go into your
If you join, you have to join the
I have
project.
to join the project? Okay,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I wanted to bring up. And all these will be in the links, and if you
I put the link in the, I copied the link and put it
in the chat.
in the chat, but that didn't do anything for the people here.
And if
I don't know
it's
how to do
in
that,
the
but
chat, it'll be on our website, and it'll also, if you were here on Zoom, if you were a Zoomer, we will, when we send out the Vimeo, we put any links like that in there, so you'll know it. So one way or another, you can get hold of this. And I would like to know how many people in here with the Bill of Rights. How many of you have done all those things? Yeah, we have. And it's so simple. If you can just help a child do one of those things. To see if we were at the zoo the other day. I have to tell a story too. We were at the zoo and I was doing the hippo, and Tom was down there doing the snakes and stuff like that. So, you know, everybody comes in and they're, oh, look at the hippo and blah, blah, blah. Here comes this little kid. He's about 5. He comes running in the door and he goes, fish, fish, oh, Mom, look at all the fish. And there's fish all in there with the hippo. There's fish all over there, and nobody has ever done that before. And his mother looked at me and she said, hippos are second, fish are first. And I said, we're always studying fish. And here was a parent who just took their kid to the zoo and encouraged them to be excited about something that not everybody is excited about. And so it inspired me. I said, oh, well, we have so many. Do you know how many fish there are? And he was saying, no, how many are there? So we talked about fish. And it was it enriched me. And I hope I enriched him a little bit too. Yes. Okay, I know. I keep getting out of the picture because I don't care if I'm in the picture. But I think we can all take a lesson from this, David, and we really appreciate. You're a dang good poet too. Yeah. You made me cry.
I never thought I would cry at a Bear Audubon meeting. I mean,
Because if you read these books that like David Louvre and all these things, it said, what are we losing? We're not just losing the words, we're losing the kids. They're getting disconnected from nature. So take a kid birding. You know, we had a young birders club for a while, and they all grew up, and we haven't reignited it. But I got an email from one the other day. And she says, I'll never forget the day I saw. And by the way, David, we had 7 golden cheek warblers at Friedrich Park yesterday on our survey. So
Excellent.
we got them there too. So, any other questions or comments from the group? If you want to pour your heart out, now's the time.
I will just say, I'm sorry I made anyone cry.
Oh, no. It was a good cry. It was a good cry. It was a good cry. Yes, sir.
Is the book available at Davis Kid?
I'm sorry?
Is the book available at Davis Kid?
So the book is available on Blurb. I self-published on Blurb. There's no way anyone should pay what Blurb would charge for that. However, you can get a free PDF version of it. So if it's linked up to on my website, and if you want to download it, you can get a PDF, and that's free.
Good question.
Yeah, please don't buy the book. I mean, just because
What did your authors say often?
no, in this case, it's
With the color and all that stuff. Okay. Thank you for asking that question because,
Yeah.
and that's on your website.
yeah, the link to it is on my website I don't know. So on my website, there's a link for the blog, and on that, there's a story about the lost words. And at the bottom of that, I have the, and actually, let me just see if I can really quickly put it into chat. Why don't I do that?
Right.
Uh,
Because if it's in the chat, we'll have it and we'll put it up, we'll post it.
that might work. I'm not. I hope it does. I'm not exactly sure, but
There it is. There it is.
if by some chance that does not work, and you're interested in the PDF, you can email me directly, and I can send you a copy.
Thank you for having.
Yeah. Thank you all for having me, and I just want to say Austin is going to take down San Antonio this year in the City Nature Challenge.
Wow, we'll see about that.
Challenge.
Well, whoever wins, if everybody gets out and does, and if they know about this project, then you get to get the goodies from wherever they are.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for coming, whether you came online or in person, and we hope you'll have some refreshments if you're here in person. And next month we have another program. Also, as Julie lives in Ohio, so she'll be coming to us via Zoom. But her story, I have heard her story, and she is something else. So I think you will really enjoy it. And thank you all for coming tonight and sharing some of the time with us and the wonderful information. Thanks a lot.